Your Excellencies, dear friends, first of all, thank you so much for being with us. And I think that today we can conclude as extraordinary discussions, and including especially with the opening ceremony. And this is what NGIC is. It's a free platform for the like-minded people where everyone can bring up their differences, their thoughts with respect to each other, no matter of their identity, their religion, their views of the political process. We are really, as today in the morning speech, our president and all other guests mentioned about, we are living in most difficult times. I've been born in at that time in a Soviet system, Soviet Union, but it is a greatest pleasure for everyone to be living in a democratic and in an independent state. No matter of your size, no matter of how many big population you have, but it is most important because until a few years ago, my country also was under occupation. But it is such a pleasure to feel that your country has its territories back. And I wish very soon our Ukrainian friends also going to have the same. Miss Katerina, our loves again to you and to all the people of Ukraine. And because each of you had in your life an experience in a political life, and that's important, that to have your wisdom and your vision experience to be shared with us. Now I would like to first to start with welcome greetings from Right Honorable Gordon Brown, which he addressed to the participants.
Let me start by wishing the Global Baku Forum success in your deliberations. And in particular, let me congratulate NGIC on your achievements of the last year. Your contribution to the advocacy and the promotion of justice and reconciliation has given peace-loving people everywhere new hope that we can fix our fractured world. And while I can't be with you in person and I'm joining online, I feel close to you and your deliberations in spirit as we debate how we can, where possible, move from a world mired in pessimism, worried about the next crisis, to one fired by optimism, thinking positively and constructively about the better future within our reach. But we meet as apparently never-ending wars and armed conflicts, of which there are so many around the world, and outbreaks of aggressive nationalism, protectionism, xenophobia, are not only causing massive loss of innocent lives, undermining any prospect of stability, but are also challenging at root and fundamentally the very idea of coexistence, the very idea we can ever live together peaceably and sustainably on the same planet. We meet at a very difficult point in our history, hoping for a just settlement that will end the bloodshed in Ukraine, but knowing there are those who believe that divisions cannot be overcome peacefully, those who believe that Russia cannot exist side by side with a free sovereign Ukraine, those who believe we cannot ever have a secure Israel alongside a valid, viable Palestinian state, and even those who believe that China and America will never be in anything other than a permanent, unstable standoff. And yet there are those like us who continue to champion coexistence and cooperation, believing that if we can prove we can together address the injustices that divide and impoverish our world, we can achieve a safer, fairer, and prosperous future for our children. We know, of course, we're in a fast-changing world. It's the result of the underlying shift of economic power eastwards and the rising potential of Asian economies, all creating a multipolar world, three seismic shifts, not just from unipolar to multipolar, but now as a result of the response to globalization, from what you might call a hyper-globalized world to what's called slowbalization, and from a neoliberal to neo-mercantilist world, a world that has changed. Indeed, take this in the context of our history over the last 200 years. 4 world orders have risen and fallen. The first two, the post-1815 balance of power, emerged after the defeat of Napoleon. The post-1918 Versailles system arose after 5 dynastic empires collapsed. Both, however, ended in world wars. Then came the post-1945 architecture led by the United Nations. And then, of course, after 1990, with the breakup of the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact, we had what US President Bush called a liberal New World Order. But this, the fourth, an American-dominated, hyper-globalized free-for-all that was in the end exposed as not fair to all, meant that protectionism has taken over what was called the Washington Consensus, a Washington Consensus that is no longer supported even in Washington. So taking this broad sweep of history, there can be no doubting of the significance of this moment. For before our eyes, every single pillar of the old order is under assault. Not just the rule of law, but the primacy we've long attached to human rights, to the self-determination of peoples, to cooperation between nations, to humanitarian aid for people in difficulty. And the question is whether now, a quarter of a way through a new but surprisingly violent century, we're in the birth pangs of a fifth world order that will turn out to be stable, or whether we are heading for the kind of chaotic disorder that has been the defining characteristic of most previous centuries. The signs are ominous if we do nothing. Let chaos reign, and don't reign in the chaos appears to be the mantra of those who will violate the law, override the sovereignty of nations, undermine judicial independence, ridicule multilateralism and multilateral institutions, and applaud regimes which are contemptuous of the very idea of human rights. And all this requires now us to rethink the way we manage our planet, show afresh how we can deal with global problems that need global solutions, and reassert the need not for a power-based order, but a rules-based order. Now, we do not yet know how Ukraine will fare in peace talks. We cannot be sure what is the fate of Gaza. It will take some time to work out how a world of tariffs without free trade will be reshaped. But what we do know is that there are urgent humanitarian needs, urgent disasters that have to be addressed, millions of refugees and displaced people, a rising number of men, women, and children becoming poor and destitute. And in the week of this conference, I want to draw attention to the sudden freezing of US foreign aid and the dismantling of US aid, which is threatening a collapse of the global humanitarian system itself. The US has been a fundamental funder of key international agencies, providing, for example, $2 billion to the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR. You know, an earthquake of the magnitude of 7 or above could not have caused more carnage. Recent floods in Asia and droughts in Africa have been catastrophic, yet they have inflicted less damage than the withdrawal of US and other aid is causing. For what is even worse is that while aid peaked at $223 billion in 2023, 2024 has already seen 17 billion of cuts by the European Union, France, Netherlands, Finland, Switzerland, Sweden, and the United Kingdom, with the result that aid agencies are now so underfunded that in 2024 and now 2025, for the third successive year, the UN has covered less than half of its humanitarian funding goal of nearly 50 billion. And this is at a time when increasing conflicts and natural disasters necessitate more relief. You know, we're now having to give up on helping the hungry to save the starving. We're now having to stop helping the badly housed to help the homeless. We're now having to end support for the down at heel to deal with the down and out. But you know, on the other hand, there are good examples of how, even in the most unpropitious of circumstances, bold and inspired leadership can achieve breakthroughs in global cooperation, even at a time when pessimism abounded. John F. Kennedy's appeal to a common humanity to achieve the first nuclear test ban treaty in 1963 is one example. Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev finding common ground in the mid-1980s to achieve the biggest reduction in nuclear weapons in history. Scientists from Russia and America coming together to launch the satellite to create the vital evidence that has led us from the 1990s to successfully address the ozone layer. The 20 largest economies of the world coming together as a G20, joining to prevent a global recession becoming a global depression in 2009. The climate accord achieved in Paris in 2015, after China and America found a way to come together on this, the most existential issue of all, not just our sustainability, but our survivability. These were all transformative changes achieved with the kind of vision, leadership, and willpower that NGIC represents, and we now need to rediscover to ensure a world economy that will grow sustainably again, international institutions that can progress urgent action on climate, not least by the work of NGIC, a global pandemic accord, because no one is safe from epidemics until everyone is safe. Most of all, the making of a lasting peace that ends the horrors and atrocities now a daily occurrence in Ukraine and other countries. All breakthroughs that are possible if we continue to work together. And for that, we have to demonstrate anew the founding tenet of NGIC, that we have far more in common than anything that divides us. And reminding everyone everywhere, as John Kennedy said, that we all breathe the same polluted air, that we all inhabit the same overdeveloped planet, that we all share the same positive aspirations for a now anxious new generation of children to do better. And we know in our hearts that not only are peace and prosperity indivisible, but that prosperity to be sustained has to be shared amongst nations.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will have a nice evening chat, I would hope now, with very interesting, distinguished speakers today at the dinner table. It will be an informal conversation. It will be a way for us to have an extension and more in-depth conversation on some of the issues that we've already touched base today. So I would ask our two speakers, President Charles Michel and then Rebeca Grynspan, to come over and join me here at the podium, at the seat. I can sit here, and then you can, yeah.
Here?
Yeah, and then you can sit here. Now, we'll have a very flexible arrangement for our conversation. Initially, we'll have remarks delivered by our speakers at their liberty in whichever form they want to do it. You can use a podium, you can sit and talk, and then we have limited time, but enough time for you to deliver the message as the key message that you want to convey at the dinner. And if the time permits, we'll have a follow-up question. I will pick up something from what you will say, and then from major takeaways that we've had throughout the day as well, if that will be it. I'm excited to have this conversation. You are both excellent speakers, and I'll proceed with President Jean-Michel then.
Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today the world stands again at a crossroads. Poverty, inequality, war, conflicts, climate disasters are shaking the foundations of our multilateral system and global trust. And this is not just turbulence, it is a seismic shift. The consequences are humanitarian catastrophes, instability, insecurity, spreading like wildfire. And at the same time, we are living through the mind-blowing revolution of artificial intelligence and big data. It brings vast potential for innovation and productivity, but it also brings serious challenges to our freedoms and to our human societies, data and algorithms are now just instruments of power. They are also weapons in hybrid warfare. And ladies and gentlemen, one thing is absolutely clear. No single nation, no matter how powerful, can tackle these challenges alone. You will never be great if you stand alone. And that's why we need effective partnerships and multilateralism more than ever. And to make multilateralism work in a multipolar world, we need the three T's. The three T's: trust, trade, and transformation. To build agreements and work together, we must believe in each other. Respect for international law is the strongest tool to foster trust among nations, being reliable. And, ladies and gentlemen, we need trade, we need investments and economic partnerships, and we need connectivity. Here, the Caucasus and Central Asia have always played a key role in linking East and West. I have no doubt this legacy will only grow stronger. We must also transform our global multilateral institutions. The world of today is not the world of 1945. Back then, dozens of countries didn't even exist due to colonial dominance. And it is urgent to reshape global institutions to reflect the realities of the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, I strongly believe in a multipolar world where each country or group of countries can chart its own course in full respect of universal human-centered rules enshrined in the UN Charter. Europe's past is a stark reminder of what happens when imperialist rivalries run unchecked. We know where that road leads: tensions, conflicts, 2 world wars, the Holocaust. The scars remain, and with them comes a duty, a special responsibility to defend human rights, democracy, and solidarity. While the European project is not perfect, its founding promise was one of reconciliation, then cooperation, and now friendship and fraternity. And that's why it remains a source of inspiration and hope. Even in the darkest moments, hope must be not lost. History is shaped by choices, by the right and fair decisions we dare to take. Nothing is inevitable. The worst is never certain. More peace, more security, more freedoms, more solidarity. This is possible. It is in our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, it's not about choosing one side over another. We bear the responsibility to forge common decisions. We bear the responsibility to set shared priorities and to reach smart and ambitious compromises. And that's what we do when negotiating a pandemic treaty, dear Dr. Tedros, when discussion climate action here at COP29, for instance, or when trying to reform global trade at the WTO, or when we make an agreement on the Pact for the Future. We all know multilateralism and diplomacy. It requires relentless efforts. It is often slow, too slow, frustrating, too frustrating, and disappointing. And there are setbacks. But one thing is also certain. Honest dialogue is the best way to challenge ideas, not with violence, but with reason. Wisdom and rationality are the best paths to a shared and respectful future. In fact, if you want to eradicate ideas you dislike, come with better ones. We must cultivate our collective intelligence to solve collective problems. But we have to be honest. Security threats are multiplying. Cyber attacks, Disinformation campaigns, energy blackmail, proxy wars are shaping a new era of conflict, and we must strengthen our resilience. We enforce our partnerships and modernize our intelligence cooperation, because security is not just about armies. It is about protecting our societies and our way of life from both conventional and hybrid threats. Ladies and gentlemen, the world needs trust, confidence. The world needs trade and economic cooperation. And waging a war, a trade war, by imposing hostile tariffs is in no one's interest. In fact, we need the exact opposite, and we must pursue the necessary reforms to make the WTO a powerful force for the 21st century, and we must address unfair subsidies and state support. A strong, well-functioning WTO is essential to fair and predictable trade, and connectivity is equally crucial, because connectivity is not about just linking places. It is about linking people, ideas, and aspirations. Yet, economic rivalries are intensifying with global competition increasingly weaponized. Sanctions, supply chain disruptions, technological decoupling are becoming instruments of power. And this fragmentation is dangerous. Instead of escalating economic battles, we need to find ways to balance competition with cooperation, fair competition with fair cooperation. Trade should be a tool for growth and for prosperity, not a battlefield. Ladies, gentlemen, excellencies, a rules-based order is not just a technical framework. It is the foundation of peace, stability, and shared prosperity, the foundation of human dignity. Our multilateral system must be fair for big and small countries alike, poor and rich. A level playing field is essential to ensuring that common rules apply to all. And to conclude, I would like to share with you how I see three priorities in the future. First, the United Nations Security Council must be reformed. It is paralyzed. It was designed to be the guardian of the UN Charter. The veto was meant to be a responsibility, not a privilege. In 1945, President Truman said, and I quote, "This charter will be expanded and improved as time goes by. No one claims that it is now a final or a perfect instrument. Changing world conditions will require readjustments." End of quote. Decades have passed, the world has changed. It is time the Security Council changed too, to be more representative, more inclusive, and more legitimate, and more effective. Probably some will call this is unrealistic, and this is unrealistic until it is not. Second point, double standards are a poison for the international cooperation. The law is the law. A crime is a crime, no matter who commits it or where, and our indignation must be universal or it is meaningless. We must all look in the mirror. Every nation is shaped by its history, traditions, and contradictions. Acknowledging them with humility is the first step to become better. And my third point, ladies and gentlemen, the regional aspect, the regional cooperation must play a more prominent role. Because when regions cooperate more, the world cooperates more. Stronger regional partnerships reinforce global multilateralism and global institutions. Regional organizations and platforms are essential for fostering dialogue, preventing conflicts, and driving stability and prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, trade fuels multilateralism. Trust is the fuel that keeps the engine running, and transformation is the force that drives us forward towards an effective, modernized multilateral system. I sincerely think we must abandon toxic rivalries and embrace fair competition. We must build a world where cooperation, not coercion, defines our common future. I thank you.
Thank you. Please. A lot to take in from your remarks so that we will have a chance to come back to some of the key issues. But then please, Rebeca, the floor is yours, as you prefer.
Okay. Well, good evening. I didn't prepare a wonderful speech like you have done. So let me just make some remarks. First of all, we have to remember again that really these 80 years since we built this system of the UN have been amazingly good for humanity. You know, you look at all the indicators, all of them, life expectancy, health, development, human rights, with all that we still have to achieve, these have been remarkable 80 years. But the truth is that although we have been so successful, the system cannot longer deliver as we want. And so we have to transform. We have to change. You know, if you look also at polls and at the numbers, we are living an era of discontent. Mm-hmm. When you see what has happened in the last years after the financial crisis of 2008, the truth is that we never recover. Investment never recover after 2008. Growth never recover after 2008. And then we have COVID. And then we have the invasion and the war in Ukraine. And then we had the war in the Middle East. And then we have climate change. And then we have the cost of living crisis that affected the lives of millions of people in the world. And they never recover. The salaries never recover. The vulnerabilities that people suffered because of this cascading crisis never recover. So when we look at the averages are good. But when you look at the people and what people are going through, you can see why we have an era of discontent. Because they never recovered. So, in a way, I think that we have been complacent. We have tried to think that after each of this shock, we recovered and people will go again to the place where they were. But they weren't. They were going down step by step. And so that's why it's so important what we are doing here. Because we need to change to be able to respond to the challenges of today. And we have said several things that have to change. The Security Council has to change. The UN has to change. The Security Council in the permanent members doesn't have anybody from Africa or from Latin America. This is not the world of today. The Bretton Woods institutions have to change. Let me give you only one number. When the IMF and the World Bank were established, they were 12 seats for 44 countries. 12 seats for 44 countries. Today we have 24 seats for 193 countries. So maybe we cannot maintain the same level of representation, but surely there is a lot of room to improve. And these are things that we can decide by the countries that are represented in these institutions. We don't have to go anywhere else. The boards can decide. The General Assembly and the Security Council can decide. And my last point, the trade system and the possibility of a global trade war. Let me here, despite all the challenges that we have, give you a good number. Still, 80% of trade happens within the rules of the WTO and the trade agreements. 80% of trade. So let's not destroy the system that still covers the majority in terms of the rules that we have agreed with. But obviously, we have also to make the trade system more flexible. We have always argued for reform. We have always argued in my organization for change. But we have never argued for the destruction and demolition of the system. One thing is reform, another thing is destruction. We need the system. We need a universally agreed rules-based system that will protect us all only from the game of power. So let me agree with you, Charles, Michel. Let me agree with you that we need trade and economic cooperation, that we need trust, and that we need transformation, a transformation that all of you here can really bring to the world if we decide to have collective action to get there. Thank you.
Well, thank you for very powerful and very inspiring speeches, both of you. It brings hope that the vision combined with action can deliver in very challenging world as well. But to play a bit of a devil's advocate, perhaps, when it comes to the follow-up questions and to address the elephant in the room when we speak about reform and transformation of the global system, how possible is that in the short term when we see that the administration and the global power like United States is actually talking more on the demolition and distrust to the system, is not seeing the value in it, rather than is committed to make it work better, maybe perhaps for the better interest of United States itself, but changing from within rather than dismissing its existence. Is it possible to think about a possibility within the reach that we can have in 1 year or 2 or 3 for that to happen if the US is opposing that reform and acting against it?
Well, first of all, I think the other day the Secretary General made a distinction that I think that is very important. There has to be a moment where we take the decision. Mm-hmm. Now, to operationalize the decision may take time, but we have to take the decision. If not, there is no way to move. Mm-hmm. So let's not think that every decision that we have to take or every transformation will be a quick win in the immediate time. But it can be a big win if we take the decision and start to implement it. And there are many decisions that we can take together. Now, it's true that we will have to bring along the US. The US is a very important country in the world. There is no doubt about it. But we need a coalition of the willing to convince. You know, suddenly we forgot that politics is about convincing. It's not about a decree. Politics is that. Is convincing, is persevering, is going in the dialogue, even if at the beginning the positions seem irreconcilable.
I would say my impression is the following. In many parts of the world, on all continents, there is this impression that it's not possible anymore to do business as usual. And it's why I have the impression that this global dialogue could offer a unique opportunity, because we feel that we need new tools that will reflect much better the reality of today's world. And I remember a few months ago, there was a very important moment, it was in September in New York, when despite the attempts again to divide the world in two blocks, we managed to build bridges, and we agreed on the pact on the future. And we were able together, the European Union, many other regions in the world, together with the so-called Global South, to identify what are our common priorities, and we were able to make compromises, not just to defend a radical position, an extreme position, but to accept the idea that if each of us, we are ready to make a step in the direction of the other, then we can make the right choices and the right decisions. That's why this is difficult. It's important not to be naive. It's important not to underestimate the challenges and difficulties. But if we would want, this is possible.
Would you think that in this process of transformation, and then within the complexity of issues that we face, actors, power centers, including financial centers, there's enough room for the private sector to be part of the transformation? Or maybe we still have an illusion that public institutions and intergovernmental organizations can fully shape this process? Do we need to think about transforming the process itself to open up the room for private sector more, for them to have more of their own engagement and investment in that transformation?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I really believe that we have to bring the private sector along. But can I be very honest in one thing that really worries me? It worries me the concentration of power that we are seeing in very few companies, especially in the digital realm. And that's a lot of power. And as an economist, that I believe in competition and I believe in markets that function, concentration is a problem. And it doesn't seem to be any energy. Maybe Europe is the only one. It's true. Europe is trying to, but you don't see that anywhere else. So is Europe alone here? Can we help? What should we do to try to have competitive markets and not such a concentration of power that is really also very damaging for democracy?
No, this is a very important element. In my opinion, indeed, artificial intelligence with big data, this will be this will become a more important instrument of dominance, of power. This is absolutely clear. And it's also true that within the EU, we have that tradition of regulation. And we are sometimes, or even often, criticized for this regulation because there is this impression that we regulate too much, and it means it is more difficult for some companies to innovate and to be disruptive because we try to identify what could be the risks, and it is more difficult maybe in Europe to identify what could be the potentials, the opportunities and the potentialities, and we need to find the right balance. That's why this is good that the last years we have tried to bring the policymakers, the public authorities, the UN system together with the private sector. You know that a few months ago there was a summit in Paris. Before that, the United Kingdom, they launched also their initiatives in that field. I sincerely hope that we will find the way to identify how we can work together so that we can make sure that when there are technological progress, this is for the benefit of the humanity. Point one. Point two, the question was, if you understand well, look, is it possible to bring the private sector so that the private sector is also an engine to transform the international institutions? I think we must engage much more with the private sector. And this is what we try to do in the field of development. The last years, we have tried to use much more the leverage effect of the multilateral development bank. This is the case in Europe with the European Investment Bank, and I know that our good friends, the IMF and the World Bank, they are trying to maximize this impact by using much more the cooperation and also the role in the influence of the private sector.
Indeed. And EBRD is a good example of that as well in the European sector. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, one thing, Eka, you remind me that last year when we were here, one of the things that I said is that what worried me the most was the uncertainty, yes? And I think that this private sector is suffering from that right now. So if you look at the investment flows, in this moment, the flows go from the south to the north.
Sure.
The south is not receiving investment from the private sector. And the reason for that is that it's too risky in their perception. And in a world of uncertainty, the most vulnerable countries will be the ones that will suffer the most. And that's why we need the World Bank and the IMF, because they are the ones that can crowd in private investment to direct the investment where it has to go.
Absolutely.
And I will give you only one number. Sorry. Africa receives only 2% of the total global investment in renewable energy. Only 2%. So at this rhythm, we won't be able to make it.
The same issues of the risking and trust, obviously, and then the role of international organizations. I don't want to starve you during the dinner time. Very final question on future generations. We're talking about the era of discontent, about trust, about transformation, and the speed and decisiveness that is needed. Are we leaving behind younger generation being more of a part of transformation already now, so that instead of having a discontent that we intergenerationally might feel, we can have them already part of that transformation in the way that they could trust it more, because they will be part of that. Are we doing enough in this direction?
No, I think we have to do more, because this is key to make sure that the young generation they are on board and they have to take their responsibilities. And if you remember, a few years ago in Europe, within the European Union, the youngest generations, they played a major role to encourage the European leaders at the European level and at the national level to be much more serious in tackling global change. It made a huge effect, a huge impact, because this was when we decided to make Europe climate neutral by 2050. This is an ambitious goal, and in fact this was the easiest part of the decision, because fixing an objective is one thing, but deciding what are the tools and what are the means we are ready to mobilize is something a bit more difficult, and making the transition fair and just is something which is complex. But this is showing that in many parts of the world, I have no doubt that the young generations, they want a better life, and they want more opportunities, and they have dreams on all corners of the planet. And it's why our responsibility, our shared responsibility, is to make decisions today so that there are more opportunities for them in the future.
Thank you. Rebeca, do you want to comment?
I have lost my voice. It's not a problem of Baku. I just went to visit my granddaughter and she was sick. So the grandmother is sick. But let me say, the Secretary General has done a lot bringing the youth back to the UN. But it's a very important part of the future. But most of the youth of the future will be in Africa. And so if we really want to care about the youth and the next generations, we have to support Africa to really make it happen for their people.
True.
Because the majority in 2050, the majority of the young people will be in the continent of Africa. So the world is changing in many ways, also in this one.
Indeed. Please join me in thanking our speakers for excellent remarks today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we will continue with the reward ceremony. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can keep it with you. No worries, no worries. I can take it, please. It was amazing. Your Excellencies, we have now a special moment, and if you want to start your dinner and the continuation of the dinner, you have to be quiet and listen to the continuation. You know, it's our tradition. Annually, we are giving our award to an exceptional personalities. And because what we talked about Azerbaijan case, about Ukraine, and about the fear of the world and of wars, there is a unique person that is going to receive our award. And we prepared a special video. And then I would like to ask our co-chair, Madam President Vaira Vike-Freiberga and Madam President Tarja Halonen to come. But just now we have a video.
I am Phuc Pan Thi. Maybe people, they don't know my name, but most of them, they know. They call me the girl in the picture. As a little girl, I felt so embarrassed. Why I was naked and my brothers, my cousin, with clothes on. I just stood right there and I turned my head and I saw 4 bombs landing like that. Fire was everywhere, and the fire actually burned my clothes off. I was 9, you know, and I remember I thought, oh my goodness, I got burned, so I would be ugly. And so people would see me different way. Of course, that moment, that picture, that day, changed my life forever. The moment when I have a child, I look at my boy. I never want the children suffer like that little girl. It's me. And so from that point, it really touched me, and that picture became so powerful gift for me. If everyone can learn to live with love, with hope, and forgiveness, absolutely, we don't need war at all. If that little girl in that picture can do it, so everyone can do it too.
Madam President Vaira Vike-Freiberga, Madam President Tarja Halonen, and Madam Kim.
Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special evening for NGIC because we have the opportunity of honoring with our award a person who honors us all deeply by the quality of her soul, of her personality, and her influence in the world. you saw on the screen that picture, which those of us who are old enough will remember seeing as it was happening in the war in Vietnam. And that little girl with her clothes burned off her back and her front, thinking at that moment about the shame of being naked. Can you believe it? A victim worrying about how she is going to look in the eyes of others. Think of the pain she must have gone through because of the burns. Think of the trauma that the whole situation could have produced. It takes nobility of soul. It takes extraordinary courage to survive this without being broken, without being bitter, and becoming, in many ways, an enemy of humanity, of those who have hurt you. We are honoring tonight Madame Kim Phuc Pan Thi, because she has already been honored as a Goodwill Ambassador of UNESCO and is known across the world. We're honoring her because of the work that she has done as she grew up and continued her life, because she was one of the survivors when in war so many children perish and continue to do so to this day. We are honoring her for her lifelong dedication to peace and reconciliation, to fostering understanding, to healing divisions, and inspiring a more harmonious world. And may I ask you at this moment, if you just stop and take a deep breath and send your love and compassion to the little girl whom you saw on the picture and who is still inside this woman who overcame the trauma and became an inspiration to us all.
So, dear friends, my speech is very short, but we spoke yesterday with Kim, and I told it already to her. And so I know that this is not according to the protocol, but I want to be honest. Ho, ho, Ho Chi Minh! Ho, ho, Ho Chi Minh! That's what we shouted in the streets of Helsinki in the same time. Police didn't like us very much, but I don't know whether we succeeded to open anybody's eyes and ears. But then, like Vaira already told, then Vietnamese War was perhaps the first one which came to our living rooms. And when we saw this small girl running in flames, so we thought, no, this cannot be true. And I hope that many of us became real, wholehearted peace lovers in that time. But she's not only a survivor, she has used all her life also and all her dedication for peace. And that's why you are a double hero. And then the triple one is that she's also a mother who has told to the next generations that this is why we live, to make peace. Thank you, Kim. Thank you once again very much.
Excellency, distinguished member of the Nizami Ganjavi International Center, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with profound humility and gratitude that I accept the Nizami Ganjavi International Award 2025. Standing before you, I am not just Kim Phuc, the woman you see today. I am also the 9-year-old girl running in terror, her body seared by napalm, an image that became a stark symbol of the devastation of war. For many years, that image defined me. It was a burden, a pain that seemed impossible to escape. However, through faith, forgiveness, and the unwavering support of others, I learned that even from the deepest suffering, hope and healing can emerge. Nizami Ganjavi, the poet who bridged cultures and centuries, wrote about the power of love, wisdom, and pursuit of peace. His words, like the enduring message of this award, remind us that humanity's potential for good far surpasses its capacity for destruction. My journey has taught me that we are all interconnected. The pain I endure is a shared human experience, illustrating the devastating consequences of conflict. Yet, it also stands as a statement to our resilience and our ability to rise from the ashes and rebuild. I have dedicated my life to helping children who are victims of war, offering them the same hope and healing I found. Through the Kim Foundation International, we strive to provide medical and psychological support, giving them a chance to reclaim their lives and their futures. This award is not just for me. It is for every child who has suffered the horror of war. It is for every person who has chosen forgiveness over hatred, who has chosen compassion over despair. It is for everyone who believes in the power of peace. I believe that true peace is not merely the absence of conflict. It is the presence of understanding, empathy, and a shared commitment to building the better future for all. It is a peace that begins in our heart, in our homes, and in our community. Let us honor the legacy of Nizami Ganjavi by embracing his message of unity and understanding. Let us work together to create a world where no child has to experience the horror of war, where every human being can live in dignity and peace. Thank you. Thank you for Thank you for this incredible honor and for your commitment to building a more peaceful world. May we strive to embody the spirits of Nizami Ganjavi in your lives and actions. Thank you. May God bless you all.
Can I ask for 1 minute? I know that our two female leaders, and especially Madam Kim, they're always complaining that, you never do only female gathering, just a city. That's why it was our own initiative as secretary, and because we have to really to stand and to show our voices. And we prepared a special appreciation signed by almost everyone. To the dearest person, a champion for the global health, to Dr. Tedros. We couldn't be able to frame it because knowing that he is going to travel, and then you have to wrap it up.
Say something? Yeah, thank you. Rovshan asked me to say something, so I know you're tired. I will take a few minutes. One, I have something I share with Kim. I also ran away for my life when I was a child in the middle of war. But the sad part is, recently, last December, I ran for my life again. Because when I was in Yemen, in Sana'a, the airport was bombarded, and one of our colleagues was wounded, and we ran away for our lives. The sad part is continuing, and we had hoped that things would change, but things are turning for the worst even. So that just wanted to share with you. And then I have one ask today. After the withdrawal, many colleagues started to take their own initiatives. And one of our colleagues, her name is Tanya, she started a campaign called $1 One World. And if you agree, I will share the GoFundMe link with Rovshan. You can get it from the NGIC website. And if you can contribute one, and with your picture saying like this, and that will be, I think, that will influence your followers in your respective countries, and that will also bring lots of resources to WHO. So that's the only ask I have. Thank you so much again. Thank you to our wonderful Rovshan for bringing us all together. And thank you for the wonderful hospitality to Azerbaijan. Tashakkur edire. Thank you.
As a note, we will do a family picture after the dessert, or before the dessert, but as you wish, just in order everyone to be here. Now you can enjoy your dinner. And thank you so much for your attention.
Akşamınız hayır olsun.
Gülürdü gözlerim sen gülende, hamı həsəd aparır bizi görəndə. Hər dəfə mənə yaxın gələndə, bilirdim üzüləcəm səni sevəndə. Hər dəfə mənə yaxın gələndə, bilirdim üzüləcəm səni sevəndə. Necə necə belə yandı bağrım, bu gecə gecə ona darıxdı canım. Ha göçə göçə məni gəzirdi bağır, bilmir necə onu sevirəm zalım. Necə necə belə yandı bağrım, bu gecə gecə ona darıxdı canım. Ha göçə göçə məni gəzirdi bağır, bilmir necə onu sevirəm zalım. Donurdu əllərim sən gedəndə, yenə ruhum üşüyür bu qəfəsdə. Hər dəfə mənə yaxın gələndə, bilirdim üzüləcəm səni sevəndə. Necə necə belə yandı bağrım, bu gecə gecə ona darıxdı canım. Ha göçə göçə məni gəzirdi bağır, bilmir necə onu sevirəm zalım. Necə necə belə yandı bağrım, bu gecə gecə ona darıxdı canım. Ha göçə göçə məni gəzirdi bağır, bilmir necə onu sevirəm zalım. Sevirəm zalım. Sevirəm zalım. Gəzirəm fağır. Sevirəm zalım.
Good evening, dear guests. I would like to greet dear guests. It's honor to be at the night to perform for you. And I would like to present my next song. It's a song about heroes. Heroes, his time.
Elinden soyup karanlıkları, kaderin hükmünden ayrılıp gelir. Pervane can atır şam ışığına, gecenin içinden sıyrılıp gelir. Elinden soyup karanlıkları, kaderin hükmünden ayrılıp gelir. Pervane can atır şam ışığına, gecenin içinden sıyrılıp gelir. Hey, hey, hey. Nece mucizedir ilahi gören, ölüme gelenler bilir gelir. Eceli gizlenir kanatlarında. sevgisi ömürdü bu sevgisiyle. Tek gelip dünyaya cahana tenha. Pervanelik var hisletinde. Tenha pervanedir pervane tenha. Nece möcüzeli ilahi gören. Ömre gelenler bile mi gelir? Eceli gizlenir ova kanatlarında. Ömürden sıyrılıp ölüme gelir. Ocak derek dünyanın derdini taşıyanlara. Nur değer pervane ömrüm yaşayanlara. Pervane Ocak derek dünyanın derdini taşıyanlara. Nur derek pervane ömrü yaşayanlara.
Thank you. Çok teşekkür.
Atlandım geçtim daştan gel gel ayağıma. Yaşmağım düştü baştan gel gel ayağıma. Hiç insaf yokmuş sende gel gel ayağıma. Gözlerim doldu yaştan gel gel ayağıma. Ateşim var külüm yok. Bülbül oldum gülüm yok. Ateşim var külüm yok. Bülbül oldum gülüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni ağlamaktan gönlüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni ağlamaktan gönlüm. Ben bu eşke düşeni ağlamaktan gönlüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni ağlamaktan gönlüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni ağlamaktan gönlüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni ağlamaktan. Karşıdan gel göreyim gel gel ayağıma. Saçın ucun öreyim gel gel ayağıma. Senin kimi zalıma gel gel ayağıma. Nece gönül vereyim gel gel ayağıma. Ateşim var külüm yok. Bülbül oldum gülüm yok. Ateşim var külüm yok. Bülbül oldum gülüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni ağlamaktan gönlüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni ağlamaktan gönlüm. Kendimin ister lezzettir aklımdan geçenler. Gözlerim her bir sene ihtiyarsız dilim yok. Neyleyim müsaade etmek gelirse elinden. Tek tesellim budur ki bu ayrılıkta elin yok. Solup da kazandı günler bir daha açsın. İnanma senin bilmirem belki de ümidin var. Benim yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni anlamaktan günüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni anlamaktan günüm yok. Bu eşke düşeni anlamaktan günüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni anlamaktan günüm yok. Ben bu eşke düşeni
Çok teşekkür ederim. Thank you so much. Haydi.
Geherin içinde boğuluram ben, parça parça olup dağılırım ben. Güneşle yeniden doğuluram ben. Dikileceğin nazlı yara gözlerim. Gece geçir yuxum fikir esiri, elə bil çəkilib dara gözlərim. Qəlbim dəfn olunur bax diridir, hey baxır ulduzlara gözlərim. Gece geçir yuxum fikir esiri, elə bil çəkilib dara gözlərim. Qəlbim dəfn olunur bax diridir, hey baxır ulduzlara gözlərim. Geherin içinde boğuluram ben, parça parça olup dağılırım ben. Güneşle yeniden doğuluram ben. Dikileceğin nazlı yara gözlerim. Geherin içinde boğuluram ben, parça parça olup dağılırım ben. Güneşle yeniden doğuluram ben. Dikileceğin nazlı yara gözlerim. Ha! Para para para para pam pam pam. Para para para para para gözler gözlerim. Gözler gözlerim geherin içinde. Oh, boğuluram ben. Oh, güneşle yeniden doğuluram ben. Dikileceğin nazlı yara gözlerim.
Thank you so much. Teşekkür.
Good evening. We are not going to sing now. Well, sort of, or to give speeches. But I think that tonight we should all remember who gave birth to Baku Forum and to this wonderful organization that turned into being a family. The guy that celebrates our birthday, that is so worried and anxious to see that every forum becomes a success, a good friend of us, and I believe that we should all now sing without a singer for his birthday, Rovshan, 40th birthday. Where are you? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Where is he? Rovshan. He deserves it. Ladies and gentlemen, when we are listening to each other, when we are speaking, when we are enjoying this forum, Rovshan, that's your cake. Congratulations. Congratulations.
our dear Rovshan, from the bottom of the heart, we love you all so, so much. You are really, nobody can invent somebody like you. Your efficiently, your kindness, your attention, so any detail. You are doing such a wonderful work, and we are so lucky to be members of Nizami Ganjavi. It's a luck and to have you like a Secretary General. You are unique. Unique.
Bravo.
President, please. It's your...
Rovshan, on behalf of everybody here, I think I'm extending to you not just our wishes for a wonderful and very happy birthday, and you brought us all together here on your birthday, but also to wish you many, many, many happy returns, and hopefully all of us will be there to celebrate with you every year. Rovshan, happy birthday. Indeed.
Thank you, DG. You know, for me, one of the best gifts was everyone came to the conference, and I wanted to say something that Dr. Tedros, he made all the way from DC, just changed all his programs. Even he missed an event of his daughter in order to come to join this event to support us. So,
Last week.
Yeah, picture.
Maybe we can call for family picture now because it's a dessert time. Dr. Can you announce everyone to come for family picture?
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's an appropriate moment now for everybody to come here. We will have a collective picture, a souvenir picture of the whole family. Everybody who's here, please come forward, and our photographers will do the job of making everybody fit into one picture. Can you just throw this away? Please come forward. Come on. No, we put President Vaira here in the middle. Stage, yeah, we can go up one more step. I think we'll have, this way we'll be able to have 3 steps. So we have three levels here. Yeah, we have 3 levels. We have 3 levels. We have 3 levels.
Yes,
1, 2, 3.
they should be here and we will be behind.
Who's they?
Madame la Présidente.